Hi guys, me here again, just presenting to you one of my games that I played online on chesscube.com yet again. I hadn't played chess for quite some time. I had like a 2-month break in between, but I stumbled across this pretty good book for beginners or players who don't play in tournaments or take the game too seriously, who are not trying to, advance into some sort of, how would you say it, the big leagues, so to speak. So once I read that book for a while, I really got back into the mood of playing some chess. And this is one of the games I played a few days ago against a guy nicknamed Maxius, who was rated a little bit higher than I was. But I still managed to win. He made a few mistakes, but you'll see those in the video. Hope you enjoy. So I open up with one of my favorite openings, the ready opening. And he mirrored my move, moving his knight to f6. Then I play d4, and this has now transposed to a sort of like an Indian game, an Indian defense game. And then he plays d5 here, and now it's transposed yet again into a queen pawn game. And one more transpose is seen here, which is the next move here. I play e3, and now this has become something that's called the Cole system. Never heard of that before, and I was interested to see that. This is probably like the first time I've ever played the Cole. So e3 was my move, and the point was to give some support to my d-pawn, open up access to this diagonal f1 to a6 for my light square bishop. And I'm not too worried about this hole on e4, even though his knight can occupy it, because at least right now, if he would move there, he has really nothing to do there. Maybe in the future he could use it to his advantage, but we'll just have to see about that. So instead he played knight to c6, attacking my d-pawn, and I moved to c4. Now I'm trying to offer him this sort of gambit-like move, which would rid of his d5 pawn, and then he would have one less center pawn. And my light squared bishop is also protecting and supporting this c4 pawn here. So accepts this small gambit-like move, and I don't take back immediately, because the knight on c6 can come to a5 and then harass my light squared bishop. So I move my dark squared bishop to d2, where it's eyeing on that a5 square. Now he places his knight onto e4 and takes advantage of that small hole we were talking about earlier, just attacking my dark square bishop, but I don't mind. Instead I just take this pawn on c4, and now I'm also attacking the weakest point in black's structure here, f7. It's always in the weakest point in any game in the starting phase for black. So he takes my bishop, and I take back with the queen, because I want to keep these two squares b4 and a5 still under my control, so the knight on c6 can't jump to them. So he plays e7 to e6, and the point of this is also not only to rid of my plan on perhaps eyeing up the f7 square with both my bishop on c4 and maybe my knight, who could jump from f3 to g5, but more importantly it's also allowing his dark square bishop to come potentially to b4 and pin my queen to my king. So I have to respond to that threat, and I respond by just simply moving to a3 with my pawn. Then he places his pawn from a7 to a6, getting ready for a pawn push on the b file, just to harass my bishop. I move my bishop back to d3, which is the normal place for the light square bishop for white to be in the Cole system. Black's next move was to just move his dark square bishop out of the way so his king can castle. I castle and he castles. My next move was to move my queen to c2. It allows my knight on b1 to go to d2, and it also forms a battery ram sort of, with the bishop leading the way down to h7 and my queen defending it. So my opponent replies to this threat by playing g6, and now I play my bishop to e4, and I have two attackers on this knight on c6. He defends the knight with his bishop, his light squared bishop, and I play my rook to d1. And I'm thinking here that maybe I can rid off my d4 pawn and exploit this pin I have potentially on this black's light squared bishop and his queen behind it. Black played f5 here, and it's just attacking my bishop here, and I just go for the knight and snag it from the square c6. His next move was pretty weird. I thought he was gonna perhaps play bishop takes c6, where it would be eyeing my knight, and then I'd just have to move my knight perhaps to e5, and his bishop could just move to b5, d5, or even e4, and it would be safe. But instead he takes back with his b pawn, which is just odd and pretty much a mistake in my opinion. I move my knight to e5, and I'm attacking both the pawn on c6 and his bishop on d7. So he moves his queen to e8, and he's not only still defending the bishop on d7 but now also indirectly defending the pawn on c6. I move my rook to c1 to add another third attacker to this attack going on with this c6 pawn, and he responds by moving his pawn from c6 to c5, and of course now I can't take back with my queen because I just lose it outright. So I just take it back with my d pawn, and now that file is open that I was talking about earlier, and maybe I can take advantage of that. So he closes up the position by playing to c6, and I move my rook to d1, back to d1, and now I'm attacking this bishop on d7 twice, also with my knight and the rook. So he moves his rook from a8 to d8, and he's defending this bishop for the second time. And now I move my queen to d3, and now I'm attacking this bishop for the third time. So he's in a little bit of trouble here. Also note that my queen can potentially snag that pawn that's hanging around there